What's going on, everybody? Champ is back, and we got ourselves another execution today. First of all, if you look behind me, look at that. Boom. So, ever since I moved into this apartment, story real quick, and then we'll jump right into it. Um, the Thunder only made it to the playoffs, I mean, 3 times. And I got the towel every single time. And I was like, what am I going to do with all these towels? 25, 24, 25, and 26. And I was like, well, let's just hang them up over there, right behind me. So enjoy that. And we got ourselves another execution today. Usually I play the intro right off the bat, but they started out with a good story, and I have to play the story over again because I want to make sure that there's no children involved. I want to make sure that I tell you guys, hey guys, trigger warning here. There's children involved, so that way you guys are concerned or not concerned. So let's get this popping because so far the sounds of it, this is a good case.
On June 25, 2026, a 74-year-old man was strapped to a gurney inside Florida State Prison, and when the curtain went up, he became the oldest person the state of Florida had ever executed. But 34 years before that moment, that same man had parked his car down the street from his wife's house before sunrise, pulled on a pair of clear plastic gloves, slipped a steak knife into his pocket, and walked toward her front door while the neighborhood was still dark. What happened next?
Now, here's the thing. This is another execution that actually took place yesterday, not today. I completely missed the notification. The notification came out at like 7 o'clock last night. I completely missed it, so that's my bad. Not like it matters, but anyway, that was the part that I heard. And then I started to watch the intro again, and it just gets better. So I'm just going to play it from here on.
It was heard by Karen's 18-year-old son, Timothy, who grabbed a rifle from his mother's bedroom and ran outside. When he came around to the backyard, a man was on top of her, hitting her in the head with a brick. There was blood all over her face. Timothy aimed the rifle at the man on top of his mother and pulled the trigger. It misfired. So he swung the gun like a bat and cracked it across the man's skull so hard the rifle shattered on impact.
Now, beyond this, I don't know.
But the man did not stop.
Oh, God.
By the time police arrived, Karen was dead in her own backyard. The medical examiner would later confirm that she had been alive and conscious for every single wound on her body. And the man responsible was Dusty Ray Spencer. But Dusty wasn't always the man investigators would come to know that day. Before he became a killer, Dusty was a United States Marine. He served as a Lance Corporal, trained as a rescue diver, and participated in rescue missions in the Philippines, where his job was pulling people out of the water and keeping them alive. That matters because years later, he would tell a friend over beers that he wanted to take his wife out on the boat and throw her overboard. The man who once...
If this person goes out here later on and says, like, I'm innocent, you just denied all credibility right there.
Saved lives in the ocean, wanted to use it to take one. By the early 1990s, Dusty was 40 years old and had built what looked like a normal life with his wife Karen Spencer in Orange County, Florida.
What the fuck is it about Florida that makes everybody go crazy? Seriously. Ohio and Florida all the time. People, all these Democrats and everything, they're like saying, yeah, we should go ahead and ban guns outright, like from nation to nation, coast to coast. Nah, dude, the only places you need to ban guns in are Florida and Ohio. That's it. The rest of the place, they can have their guns.
They ran a painting business together, shared a home, and lived with Karen's 18-year-old son, Timothy Johnson, from a previous relationship. But by the fall of 1991, Karen wanted out of the marriage, and in early December, she asked Dusty to leave the house. That was the first time she asked him to leave, but she would have to ask 2 more times. And each time, he came back worse. On December 10th, Dusty returned to confront Karen about money she had pulled from their shared business account, and within minutes, the argument turned into an assault. He choked her, he hit her, and then he told her to her face that he was going to kill her.
Please leave.
Karen called the police, and
good.
Dusty was arrested.
Okay, good. Okay.
But even from a jail cell, he was not finished. The next day, he called Karen and told her he was going to finish what he had started as soon as he got out.
You do know that they record these things and play them back and listen to them, right? Well, now you know.
He said it the next morning, sober from behind bars, after a full night to think about what he had done and what he still planned to do. And what Karen did next is the part of this story that is hardest to sit with.
Okay.
She let him come back for the holidays anyway.
Okay, now I don't care what happens to you. Now I don't care what happens to you. You know, this is as stupid as like you're watching like a horror movie, right? And I'm talking like the horror movies where the guy is like impossibly tall, like he's like 8 feet tall. He weighs like 680 pounds of pure just beef and steak and muscle. And you just escaped from his house of horrors. Like the guy just does not die. I mean, you could take a shotgun and blow him in the face with it, and all it will do is just knock him out for about 10 minutes. This is about as stupid as like you just escaped from the house, but you forgot your wallet, so you have to go back and get it. That's how stupid this is. I do not care what happens to you now. Well, I do, but...
He spent Christmas at the house. They exchanged gifts, sat down to dinner with her parents and Timothy, and for a few days, it probably looked like everything was fine. But when the holidays were over, Karen asked him to leave again. That was the second time. On New Year's Day, 1992, Dusty was drinking with friends at a company workshed. And
I was 7 and 3 months old. 7 and 4 months old.
And told one of them that he ought to take Karen out on the boat and throw her overboard. The man thought he was joking. But 2 days later...
No, he's been telling everybody the same murder plan for the past decade, apparently. The guy obviously can't control his drinking. That reminds me, like, now I have been drunk many times. And people who know this personally, they're like, yeah, we know. I have never been, like, angry. You know what I mean? Like if I'm at a party, right, and I'm drinking my ass off, and I'm to the point where I'm, like, falling off the floor, I never was like, oh yeah, man, I want to fight somebody. There are people that are actually like that.
Dusty told him that Karen was not going out on the boat anymore. He wasn't cooling off. He was changing the plan. On the morning of January 4th, Dusty came back.
Oh boy, that's my brother's birthday. He just turned 1, right? Yeah, because you were born in 1991, right? Yeah, you just turned 1. Happy birthday.
Back and got into another fight with Karen.
And by the way, I really hope I'm right there, because if I'm wrong, that's on me. Sorry.
Her bedroom. Timothy was asleep but woke up to the sound of his mother and found Dusty on top of her, hitting her. When Timothy tried to pull him off, Dusty grabbed a clothes iron off a shelf and cracked the boy across the head with it. Then followed him back to his bedroom and hit him several more times. Then Dusty looked at an 18-year-old kid and said, "You're next. I don't want any witnesses." Karen fled to a neighbor's house for help, and when Timothy tried to call 911, Dusty ripped the phone cord out of the wall and then left town. Both of them ended
because remember, there were no cell phones during this period of time.
Up in the hospital. Karen's wounds were consistent with...
Did they have the old school rotisserie phones in 92? Or I'm gonna count this as 91 because we're only 4 days into the new year. Did they have rotisserie phones only in 1990, like the early 1990s? When were the push button ones introduced? I'm going to have to YouTube that later. Or not YouTube it, Google it later.
Being struck by an iron, and the doctor had to close her face with 11 stitches. But nobody intervened. Not after the choking, not after the death threat from jail, and not after the iron attack that put both Karen and Timothy in the hospital.
How? That was somebody rumbling over the railroad tracks outside. If you could hear that, you probably couldn't. But how? $1991, man, they did not give a shit.
After this attack, Karen asked Dusty to stay away for good. That was
Now, I'm no relationship expert here, but you should have done that already.
the third time she asked him to leave.
So that's number 3. Okay.
On the morning of January 18th, 1992,
So this would be 12 days later.
2 weeks later, Dusty came back one final time.
Or 2 weeks.
And everything about how he arrived tells you this was not a man in a rage. He parked his car away from the house so it would not be seen. He put on clear plastic gloves. He had a steak knife in his pocket. And when they tested his blood alcohol level after the arrest, it came back at 0.
Look at that old school retro thing. Is that what they seriously used back then? I didn't know what that was at first. Fail, pass, ready. No way. That was that right there is an old school breathalyzer. That's actually really cool. I wonder if I can find that on Amazon. Lion alcohol meter SL2A. I got the model right here. And I bet you if I zoom in, I could probably read that down there. Oh, that's so cool. All right, go.
Not impaired, not buzzed. Stone cold sober at dawn, gloved, with a blade, approaching on foot so nobody would hear
so
his
he
engine.
wasn't even on anything. He did this sober. Yeah, he definitely thought about this.
Moments later, Timothy woke up from the commotion, grabbed a rifle from his mother's bedroom, and ran outside. In the backyard, he saw Dusty hitting Karen in the head with a brick, blood already covering her face.
Wait.
Saw Dusty hitting Karen and ran outside. In the backyard, he saw Dusty hitting...
Oh, the attack happened in the backyard. I kept thinking it was happening in her bedroom. I think that was the other attacks.
Karen in the head with a brick, blood already covering her face. Timothy aimed the rifle at the man who was attacking his mother and pulled the trigger. But the gun misfired. If that rifle had gone off, Karen might still be alive today.
Yeah, but he could have accidentally missed and hit her too, so there's that to consider too. So it's not all rainbows here. But yes, you do have a point.
But it did not, and Timothy would live inside that moment for the next 34 years. He swung the rifle like a bat and smashed it across Dusty's skull hard enough to shatter the weapon.
I think that would be the smartest move anyway, because if you shot the guy and killed him, wouldn't the court just turn on you? Yeah, you're doing it for an obvious reason. It's not like he's just standing here and you're just gonna shoot the dumb son of a bitch, right? Like you're doing it to obviously save somebody's life, but at the same time, they could turn it around, wouldn't they? And just be like, well, you could have missed and hit her, so thanks, but no thanks. Something like that. That's what I'm thinking. And there's like crumbs and stuff all over. I gotta vacuum this rug. All right, let's go.
But it did not matter. Dusty pulled up Karen's nightgown and told her, "Show your boy your pussy."
And he's sober.
He said that to a woman who was bleeding from her head and face in front of her own son, who had just tried to save her life with a rifle that would not fire. Then he grabbed her head and slammed the back of it into the concrete wall of the house 3 times.
Jeez.
She was still conscious after the first impact and told him to stop.
How tall is this chick? How do you even do that? I'm just thinking like old school anime, like bam, bam, bam.
But he did not stop. When Timothy tried to carry his mother away from the wall, Dusty pulled out the knife and pointed it at the boy. Timothy had no choice. He ran to a neighbor to call for help, and by the time the police arrived, his mother was dead. Deputy Chief Medical Examiner Dr. William R. Anderson performed the autopsy. Karen had been stabbed 4 or 5 times in the chest, with 2 wounds penetrating her heart and lung. A large slash ran across her face and down her neck. She had defensive wounds on her right hand, meaning she had been awake and fighting back with her bare hands before Dusty slammed her skull into the concrete and knocked her unconscious. The defensive wounds came first. She was fighting for her life before her head hit the wall. Dr. Anderson estimated she lived for 10 to 15 minutes after receiving the stab wounds. Every injury on her body happened while she was still alive.
So I'm curious though. Let's assume that she lived through this. What would be your next move? Yeah? What would be your next move? Just run forever? What point are you trying to make? This, like, seriously, like, crimes like this don't make any sense. Like, you're not exactly helping your cause here.
Dusty was arrested that same day. At trial, the prosecution walked the jury through every step. The choking, the jail call, the boat comment to Benjamin Abrams.
How the fuck does nothing happen from those jail calls? How does nothing happen from that? Is this the case that made them like go, okay, maybe we should listen to the phone calls? Maybe that's what it is, you know?
Iron attack on January 4th and the final morning with the gloves and the knife. The defense brought in a clinical psychologist named...
There's the court reporter. She was right here.
Named Dr. Kathleen Birch, who testified that Dusty had a paranoid personality disorder and believed Karen was trying to steal his painting business. And a neuropharmacologist who admitted Dusty's blood alcohol level was 0, but argued he was suffering from a severe...
It takes me a second to realize what I'm looking at. What is this thing? So, we saw the 1990s one earlier. This one's the 1970s one. What the fuck is this? So we got the on-off switch here. We got the light here. Just... What is this? The gauge. Percent. Why is this 2 words? Percent blood alcohol. The legal limit is right here, by the way. Pull to reset. What do you even blow into? Light. Balance. What is balance? Oh my God.
Prolonged hangover. A man who drove to his wife's house at dawn parked down the street, put on plastic gloves, and brought a knife. And the defense said it was a prolonged hangover. But the court gave it almost no...
Who gives a shit? This is where the court comes up with the dumb defenses. Well, you know, he was just hungover. Yeah, I've been hungover many times as well, and again, just like when I was drinking, I never wanted to kill anybody. I wanted him to shut up sometimes because I had a killer headache, but you know, as far as like me wanting to kill them like this, no.
Wait. The jury convicted Dusty of first-degree murder, aggravated assault, attempted second-degree murder, and aggravated battery. By a vote of 7 to 5, they recommended death. The judge followed the recommendation and sentenced Dusty to death in December 1992, finding the murder especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel.
Yeah, he beat her to death with a brick. All for what? Because you didn't want to move on with your life? Or is it that goofy, you know, if I can't have you, nobody can bullshit?
Dusty appealed his death sentence, and the court sent it back to be reconsidered. But it did not help him. On January 18, 1995, exactly 3 years to the day after he murdered Karen, he was sentenced to death again. He spent the next 31 years trying to get...
Oh, he looks so familiar. When I saw his picture down here, he looked really familiar. Oh no. We were where? Right around here? We were right around here.
Throw. He appealed to the Florida.
I'm using a game mouse, and if I hit one of the buttons that are on the side, what are the number buttons? 1 through 10, it tells you like, so 1 would be around here, 2 would be around here.
The Supreme Court,
Dumb.
to the federal courts, all the way to the United States Supreme Court. But none of it worked. Every single road was closed. In the spring of 2026, Governor Ron DeSantis signed his death warrant and scheduled the execution for June 25th. By then, Dusty was 74 years old with liver disease and failing health, and his legal team argued that his age and the lethal injection protocol violated the Eighth Amendment. The Florida
Who gives a shit? The bastard's already dying. Just kill him anyway.
Supreme Court
I
rejected
hate that
every
shit.
argument and issued the mandate immediately. But it was not just the courts that were asked to intervene. Petitions circulated calling for clemency. Anti-death penalty organizations described what happened to Karen as one tragic act of violence and asked the public to consider the role of childhood trauma in shaping adult behavior. And that was not it. Dusty's spiritual advisor, Reverend Jeff Hood, called the scheduled execution a nursing home execution.
Why?
He described Dusty's skin as old and frail, saying it would need to be pulled
Well,
tight.
that's usually what happens when you appeal for decades. You get old. Yeah, that's usually what happens. So what? This is not the first elderly person executed. Shut up.
Just to run the IV. He wrote that no old man should die alone among strangers, and that there was
No, he's not dying alone. There's going to be a whole bunch of people watching it happen. They'll be eating it. They'll be eating popcorn like they're watching a movie. They'll be eating it all up. But, there'll be people around.
already a death moving toward Dusty that the state did not need to rush, that they should let it come on its own time. He also said he understood that Karen's family would want to see Dusty executed, but that the real way to honor her memory was to quit killing people. In the days before June 25th,
There's that. I've seen the entrance to that prison so many times, yo. It seems like anybody who's sentenced to death row in the whole entire state of Florida ends up at this specific prison, because this is the only prison in Florida that I always
Dusty
see.
sent a
Florida
message
State
through
Prison.
his advisor to the public. I want the people of Florida to know that I love God. I'm sorry for what I did, and no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. Karen Spencer was not given the chance to be okay. She was never given 34 years to find peace, or a last meal, or a chance to say goodbye. She never got to tell anyone she was going to be okay. But Dusty did get all of those things, and then, on June 25th, 2026, his time finally ran out.
Yay.
That morning, Dusty woke up at 5:30 in his cell at
That's, I probably did too. What time did I wake up? This is 2 days ago. I slept like shit yesterday. Yeah. Lately I've been getting into the habit of like waking up about 20 or 30 minutes before my alarm goes off. And my alarm goes off at 6 in the morning. So, yeah, I probably was just waking up too.
Florida State Prison. According to a spokesman, he remained calm and compliant throughout the day. He got a visit from his spiritual advisor, and for his final meal, he requested a pizza, French fries, and a milkshake. At 6 p.m.,
What kind of milkshake though? I wonder if I should have that for dinner. Like whatever they eat for death row, I should just order it like that weekend and just eat it on camera. There's another idea right there.
the curtain to the death chamber went up. Dusty was already strapped to a metal table with an IV in his arm. His spiritual advisor sat at the foot of the gurney. When the warden asked if he had any last words, Dusty said, Sorry to the family. Into thy hands I commit my spirit and my soul. I'm on my way, Lord, I'm on my way. Amen. Immediately after his statement,
Sure.
the lethal drugs began flowing. After a few minutes of labored breathing, Dusty stopped moving. The The warden shook him and shouted his name several times, but there was no response. A medic was called in to check his vital signs, and Dusty Ray Spencer was pronounced dead at 6:10 p.m. He was 74 years old and had spent more than half his life on death row.
That's crazy.
What do you think? Has justice been served? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, let me know your comments down below too. That's crazy. Well, here's the moral of the story. Don't do this. You know, just don't do. Just like watch TV or something instead. You know, if you want to go ahead and drink, yeah, fine, sure, but you know, don't go on a 5-state killing spree. Don't go on a 3-state killing spree. You know, don't get the feds involved in a crime. Just like watch TV instead, or like do literally anything instead. I don't even know what to say. There's 2 videos right here. Just